Josh Raven here with Esports. I'm on the couch with Anders with the Cobb Energy Center, I believe, in Atlanta for the ELEAGUE finals. It's been a while since we've done an interview. Anders, I think it was DreamHack Malmo,
Yeah.
I believe, last time. So, I mean, a lot has changed since then, really. You kind of half live in America now for ELEAGUE.
Yeah.
The finals, we're at the final stint.
That is accurate, yeah. End of season 1, and we've been here for 6 weeks total.
You've been here for 6 weeks total?
Yeah.
And the other two coming in, of course, have been James and DDK. First off, living in Atlanta, it must be a new experience for you. I don't think you've lived in America before, have you?
No, not really. Yeah, it is. I mean, obviously live in a hotel room, which is slightly less exciting. But I really like the city. I think it's cool. Extremely hot, so we tend to try and stay indoors. But yeah, I really like it here. I've been to the south of the States before. I've been to Dallas a couple of times, and I like the vibe there as well. So yeah.
I mean, your hotel has a bar in it, so that's more than our apartment can
yeah.
say. We try our best, but your hotel has a bar. So, you mean, you have everyone under one roof there. Do you all just kind of chill out at the same time, or is it kind of, are you living your own separate life in Atlanta while you're being here, or are you all just funneled into, like, ELEAGUE only?
So it's a bit of a mix, I would say. I think especially because we've done 2 weeks on, and then we've been home for 2 weeks, and then we come back for 2 weeks, and that should have been the pattern. I would say whenever we come back, we tend to hang out a little bit more, and during the end of those 2 weeks, then we, just a little bit less. Especially for me, I think I like to hang out by myself a lot. I'm just that sort of person. Yeah, I read in a fashion magazine once, not that I read those a lot, but
yeah, of course not.
But of course not. But yeah, something about how to tell if you're like a an introvert or an extrovert person, and they said anyone who recharges themselves by hanging out inside, and that seemed like my thing. Just chill in your room and browse things on the internet.
I feel like that's most esports people, though, really, introverts.
Yeah.
Although it's quite funny for you, because being a caster and all, it kind of should denote you being an extrovert, really, having your voice broadcast to all these people. So it's kind of a funny thing to hear from you.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't. I think if someone had asked me beforehand, if you'd gone through one of those things in elementary school, what do you want to be, and someone had presented the idea of being, a sports broadcaster or something like that, that would have been very far from my mind. I would have said, no way, that's going to be a thing. So I think it's because it happened accidentally, and then it was sort of like from one day to the next, and you couldn't really say no when someone offers, says, "Well, come here to Jönköping DreamHack or something like that, and do it." That was the first event, the big one that I did. So yeah, you can't say no, so you just got to try and do it. So.
Well, that casting career has come quite a long way now. We find you on television, as everyone keeps saying, oh, television's so big. For you, has the experience changed at all, being on television? Does it change your job? Does it change your mentality or anything like that? Or is it just kind of go in, do my job, same thing?
There are some subtle changes in terms of how you present the game, right? Because we have a new audience, so we want to make sure that they don't feel alienated from the get-go. But we also have to make sure that the hardcore fans, which are still the majority, obviously, don't feel like they're being talked down to, we're explaining everything in minute detail, stuff like that. So that's a balance that we have to try and find. I think we've done a decent job at it, but that's been a bit of a change for television. I would say the work environment has been the biggest change. Just the people who are working here with Turner are super excited to be working on this project, and some of the people who are involved have a lifelong career in doing sports production and have won Emmys for their work. So they're some of the best people in the world at doing it. And yet, here they are learning about Counter-Strike of all things, and really learning about it, not just really asking questions about, how does this work, and, just very excited about what's going on. So I think that's been a bit of an interesting development, and I really enjoyed that.
I mean, as far as I can tell, from the get-go, the goal has been to try and get newer fans into Counter-Strike, if I'm correct, or one of the objectives, really, as well as obviously hitting viewer numbers and putting on a good show. But do you, in your personal opinion, think that you've achieved that goal of pulling in newer fans? Because it's hard to tell, really, with the numbers and stuff like that, but what do you think you've done to achieve that goal?
Yeah, I think it's helped that we've sort of tried to explain things. Like, we have had people come up who have been to the studio in Atlanta, who have brought their parents. That actually happened a lot. So someone come up and said, well, my dad's never watched any Counter-Strike, but we watched 2 games, and he's kind of enjoying it now. He's a little bit into it. But I think that's still a small percentage. Like, I don't think that's like a general trend, and I wouldn't want to paint the picture that we keep going another 3 years, suddenly we'll be at the NBA level and stuff like that. I think that takes a lot longer, and it has to be also a generational thing. I think we need people who are 16 now to become 26 and 36 for this to sort of really hit home. And the fact is, there is also a general trend that goes away from linear broadcasting and television into sort of streaming and online streaming, and I think that's something that Turner will have to eventually sort of adapt to as well, and try and look into. And if you look at every big media outlet, every big all online site, it's like you go to Daily Dot, you go to CNN, you go to anywhere you want, you will see that they have they're building some sort of streaming platform on their website because they have to. So
I'm glad you plugged us first.
Yeah, of course. Just gotta try and do that, right? Hit me up. So I mean that's just how things work, right? Everything is trending towards that, and I don't see any reason why that would change right now. So everyone who wants to do anything in esports probably will follow that thought, that line.
Yes, well, I mean, you said it yourself. It's going to streaming. We, as people who watch esports, we prefer to do it via streaming. It's at your computer. It's easy to watch. Obviously, this is mainly on TV. You do get a Twitch broadcast, but it's not quite as fleshed out. There's not quite as much going on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like you might be a little bit obligated to say that it does have a place on TV because you're working on it or whatever. But do you feel that it does have a future on television, esports in whole? Because streaming seems to be going just fine for most events.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm qualified. I don't think if anyone is qualified to answer that question. I think that's something that you will only that will only show itself once it's been on for a while. Yeah. We keep getting tweets from people saying, I'm at Buffalo Wild Wings now. I'm enjoying the broadcast. I'm here with my friends. They've never seen it before, but we're having a really good time. If that trend continues, and I think maybe especially if the audience, if you see ELEAGUE once on the program schedule, you see, there's some Counter-Strike thing, maybe a friend tells you about it, then sure, you'll be interested. Maybe you'll just be like, what is this, computer games on television? But if it keeps happening, this year, if it happens next year again, if it's a long-term thing, that's how branding works. It has to have its effect over a long period of time. So I think one season is way too soon to tell. It has to keep going. But I think I would say, based on my sort of amateur opinion on ratings, that it's at least sustainable. It's at a point where it makes sense to keep going.
Well, we did see season 2 has been renewed, if I'm correct in saying that, but the season itself is going to be shorter.
Yeah.
Is there any particular reason for that wasn't?
So I think so. This is the first thing that Turner are doing within esports. So my understanding is that it is, as much as anything else, an experiment. We tried with one format, and I think a lot of people were complaining, well, we have these 2 days in the beginning that don't seem to have any real function. They will, they just sort of seed the qualifier, and then you play the final 2 days, and they're the ones that really decide who goes through, right? So I think that format was tested, and now it's maybe trying to change it around a little bit and see if we can't come up with a better format. I think that's the main reason why, I think.
Okay. Well, we've talked about the whole backstory of ELEAGUE and Counter-Strike and stuff.
Yeah.
Let's go into actual Counter-Strike news, because I know you probably want to talk about it. The big one going on is gambling. And
yes,
that
of course.
News that came out, it would be foolish of me not to touch on it at least.
Yeah, it should.
I know Thorin himself said Valve killed the golden goose. I believe Semler said small tournaments might suffer from this in the future. If you put your opinion out there, I didn't see it. Do you mind sharing what you think of this whole CSGO gambling is dead and it's gone?
Yes, but we have to define what we mean when we say gambling, right? Because I think people end up putting gambling and betting into one big bowl, and I think that's a mistake.
Is betting not gone as well, though, as Lounge not being shut down?
You're right, but then you're talking about skins. But obviously there's a lot of real money betting. There's a lot of real money betting that's been going on all along, and so my perspective has been a little bit different. I think what will actually happen now is that some of these big betting sites that we see endorsing, soccer, football leagues, and every other sport that you can think of, they're usually on the banners somewhere. If you look around the stadiums, they would have had a very hard time competing against some of these skin sites because of the lack of regulation, because of just the lack of control in general. If you're a sort of a legitimate site, if you're someone who has actual standards and best practice way of working out things and making sure that underage bettors can't get to the site, all these things, right? Why would you throw money at something when you're competing against someone who has none of these restrictions and can essentially and I mean might not even pay any taxes on anything that they do, right? All of these things are a big. Why try and fight that fight? Well, now you can, and you can actually put money into the leagues. You can actually legitimately sponsor a league and have it be done in a reasonable way. So I think instead of the money just going to the people who are running these skin sites, now the money could actually go partially back into the community and obviously to the sites as well. That's how things work. But I mean, I think long term it's a good move. But sure, it'll have a big impact initially, and maybe the smaller tournaments especially will suffer more. But I don't see any other way around it, and it was a long time coming. I mean,
so in your mind, it was absolutely deserved. These sites needed to go right now, had to be done. Yeah,
I think so. I mean, we have obviously had talks with these some of these skin sites as well, and been offered money to do sort of small promotional stuff. We don't run a YouTube channel like some of the big scandals have been around, so we haven't been offered those kind of things. But the offers that we've been made have been at a level where it's hard not to say yes when someone is offering you a lot of money to do something that's relatively simple, right? The scenario, the example that I had in my mind all the time, it's not so much that I mean, obviously there's the sort of extreme example of someone stealing their parents' credit cards and using all their money because they have become addicted to skin betting. That's bad. But I think it could happen much simpler than that, because you don't actually need a credit card. Someone could just give you a Steam gift voucher. And then, that's $20. Let's say you open, 5 boxes, and one of them is like the rarest Doppler knife that you can imagine. So it's never happened to me either for some reason. But let's say that happens, and it's worth $1,500, and so now you've turned your $20 into $1,500, and then you put it all on like one of those gambling sites like lotto sites, and it's a roulette, and you win. You've got a 4% chance to win, but you win, and it's a $1,500 bet. Now the $1,500 is suddenly $20,000 in one bet. Now, as a fairly reasonable adult human being, if I had $20,000 in a sort of a skin lotto site, I knew that I could make most of it into real money. If I somehow lost it again by just betting and betting, which is obviously how, that's what happens if you keep betting. So if you lose it all again, that would keep me up at night. Losing $20,000, that would leave me restless. Now, if I'm 12 years old doing it, I actually think that could have a very heavy impact on someone's sort of mental, you should obviously be telling all your friends about it, saying, oh, it's $20,000, and then the next day it's gone, and you have to explain to them how that happened. And even though you realistically only lost $20 that you put in, I think the mental strain on someone like that is too much, and I wouldn't feel comfortable. I think that's where you need to be able to sort of reasonably say that you can be quite sure that the people who are betting are over a certain age, and then if anyone slips through that system, then they would have basically had to commit fraud, and it's hard to hold a site accountable for that. So they have to be on that level. So that was the thought experiment that I did to figure out whether or not I thought it was reasonable or not.
Well, the only reason that these sites have come down really is because of the reporting of certain people. They brought down Mo was the start, kind of kicked it off with and everyone thought that was bad. Everyone said Mo is a terrible person. Then suddenly he's relaxed and he's in the clear because people like T. Martin have come along and he's being accused of such things. Now FaZe might have ownership of CSGO. Phantom Lord is taking the cake really for having the worst week of 2016 somehow.
Yes, that is true.
I mean, are you surprised at all by these guys having ownership and not disclosing these ownerships and making money off of this, or did you see it as eventually happening anyway? Like, it's such an easy way to get in. It's not regulated at all. I mean, are you surprised by these outcomes?
I think the Mo part of the story that you would essentially be gambling with house money, which is already you can clearly tell immoral. But then the step further of actually being a part owner of the sites and or just directly owning them, I don't think I had thought that far. I think the problem is people forget that these things tend to come out on the internet anyway, right? Like, it's really hard to keep anything hidden for a long time. So I didn't think anyone would be silly enough to try that. That seems extreme to me.
Well, they did. They got caught, and that's the CSGO gambling. We'll let you go in a minute, but we're going to bring it back to ELEAGUE, just because we have to at the end, really. We'll get some predictions. I don't know if you like giving predictions or not. You probably hate it. Most analysts do, because if you get it wrong, everyone hates you. If you get it right, then you are expected to get it right. But go on, give us your best shot. Who's winning the semi-finals? Fnatic versus...
it's going to be Fnatic playing
Na'Vi.
against Na'Vi, yeah?
And then Mouse and VP.
And Mouse and VP, that's true. Yeah. So Fnatic to me look a little bit unstable, actually. They're obviously a fantastic team, and I think they will continue to be sort of a terrifying force. I don't know. I actually think Fnatic will win that game. I really want to say Na'Vi. I think they look like the better team right now, but I think Fnatic on a big stage like that, and I think Na'Vi are going to be a little bit worried about playing Fnatic. So, yeah.
I believe in Na'Vi at least. They've got my belief. Don't worry.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, that's a really hard one to predict. Mouse Sports have a history of disappointing just when it seems like they're about to make it. I mean, the fact that they're in the semifinals is so amazing already. But I think VP is going to be the end of it. I think the Polish team is too strong. So yeah, I mean,
essentially it rests on one person really on Mouse Sports, doesn't it?
Yes,
it's kind of Nico and how well he does. Do you think he has the capacity to carry that hard to beat VP if VP are rolling?
No, I don't think you can do that as one person. But that's the sad part about Mouse Sports is that actually if it was Nico plus Chris plus even one other person, and that person wouldn't even have to play the best game of their life, they would just have to be proficient, then we would have a team that could. I mean, it's just that it seems to be either Nico is completely off and everyone else is playing pretty well, so it's still a pretty good team, or it's just Nico and not that much else, and then it's still a pretty good team, but but it's not enough, right? They need something else. So yeah, I just hope the rest of them can do it. I think they all know it. I think we keep saying it as if though we've sort of uncovered some great analysis about how I think that team knows how that works anyway. I don't think it's going to be a surprise to them. But how do you change that? Like that's really difficult.
Well, we'll see if they can take down the plow. I don't know if this will be uploaded by the time that happens or not, so you may look very silly right now. We've been talking for a while. It's actually started raining since we started talking. It was bright and sunny when we started.
Brilliant.
So maybe sign of things to come for the day. But thanks very much for joining us, Anders. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Josh.
Have fun casting the games today.